Welcome to Horror Year, where every story is a journey into the unknown. If you're brave enough to face your darkest fears and uncover the most chilling tales, you've come to the right place. So, dim the lights, turn up the volume, and subscribe to Horror Year. Your journey into terror begins now. Welcome to yet another terrifying story that will cause you to doubt your own home. In this tale, a man moves into what appears to be the ideal house, a place to relax and start over, following his early retirement and court victory. But when he finds out he's not alone, things quickly take a terrifying turn. As he works to solve the riddle surrounding his ghostly guests, you'll be on the edge of your seat due to strange sounds, footsteps, and frightening encounters. Keep your seat as we begin. Nobody is present. I made the decision to retire early and acquire a place where I can spend the rest of my days resting and earning money from side gigs after I won a case against my former employer. With its spacious basement, 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a large living room, and a kitchen where I might perhaps learn how to cook instead of surviving on microwave mac and cheese and chicken strips, the property I purchased appeared ideal for it. I was settled and ready to spend the rest of my life after purchasing all the furniture I needed, food, trinkets, a few instruments I could play on the sides, and even an aquarium with maybe some fish to keep me company. I'll admit that, because I was anxious to get through everything, I didn't think to ask all the necessary questions when I was purchasing this house. I suppose that the money kind of got to me. It was a blast for the first few weeks. A couple of our former colleagues stopped by to play games, drink beer, and even have a jam session. But really, after all that, just to be left alone, I felt alone myself. Fish could not entertain me. My recent split truly took a toll on me, so I never gave dating another thought, but I had to take action, and who knows. I talked too soon about feeling alone. I heard my kitchen cupboards opening and closing one night after dozing off on my recliner chair with the TV on. I swiftly awoke, padded silently to my closet and grabbed a bat, supposing someone had broken in through the back door. I was prepared to swing at the intruder when I heard a sigh and the sound of footsteps approaching me. I swung my bat like I was wielding an axe as soon as the steps got closer, expecting to knock someone in the head, but no one was there. I swung again and again, my pulse pounding from the intensity, but no one was there. Confused, I glanced about and hurriedly turned on the lights, but there was nobody there. I ran from room to room, turning on all the lights in the house, but to no avail. I exclaimed, "Who's there? Hi there." But all I got was silence. I dismissed it, thinking perhaps I was simply going crazy and still half asleep. But I could have sworn someone was in my kitchen and I could sense their heavy footsteps approaching me. I couldn't figure out what was going on, so I wrote it off. After spending the previous evening out with several friends, I was exhausted, a little inebriated, and ravenous when I arrived home. I headed to the kitchen and started thinking of what I would call an honest sandwich, a sandwich with all the necessary ingredients. As I struggled to steady myself while reaching into the refrigerator and pulling out a package of bread and some sliced ham, I heard a man's voice ask, "Who's there?" and the sound of footsteps from the living room. Startled, I let go of the object I was holding and remained motionless for a brief moment. Hello? I could feel the vibration approaching me as the footsteps entered the kitchen once again before they abruptly halted. I stand there, frozen in place, trying to process what had just transpired when there's another voice from upstairs. "Bobby? Is that who you are?" I heard more footsteps coming down the stairs, so I went straight to the kitchen entry to check. But once more, nobody was there. I was sobbing and shocked by what had happened, and I spent the entire night sitting in the kitchen, unable to move, but still ravenous. After what must have been 3 sandwiches before the sun came up, I climbed upstairs and locked my door before going to bed. Upon awakening, I texted several pals to inform them about the incident, and naturally, these idiots were dubious. I told 12 people, but nobody took me seriously. I made the decision to stay at home longer that night in an attempt to communicate with these individuals or things, ghosts perhaps, whatever they were. I concluded that my new home, which I had invested a great deal of money and energy into, was haunted. The more I considered it, the more I felt like packing up and moving out, but this was my home, and I'd be damned if I was going to be forced to part with things I had paid for with money I had partially earned. I was enjoying a microwave mac and cheese meal with chicken strips while seated at my kitchen table. I understand, it's sad. I was bored of waiting around for something to happen by 11 p.m. Nothing had transpired even after drinking a few drinks and fiddling with my phone. Perhaps they experienced stage fright and moved on. I hope that came to pass. After finishing my fourth drink and feeling a small buzz, I slammed the can down a little and muttered, "Okay, I'm going to bed." I grunted, "Who the hell are you?" As I rose up, stretched out my arms, and yawned loudly while scratching my elbow. A voice approaches from just behind me. When I gently turn around, nobody is there. "Are you present? Here?" My hands trembled as I spoke in response. "Who's in attendance? How are you doing? Present yourself." I waved my arms in response, but the voice sounded like it was standing in front of me. "No way this is happening right now," I said. "Hi there." I retreated a little and felt something walking through me and into the living room because I was so terrified of this invisible force. "Hello?" I trailed slowly behind. I whispered again, and as I turned to look like I was saying, "Fuck this," the stairs started to tremble like someone heavy was falling. I uttered the words while grabbing my phone, keys, and sweatshirt before heading out the door to locate the closest motel. I stayed in a rented room and kept my pals informed of my whereabouts for 3 days. Some of them refused to come see for themselves, either because they were too afraid or because they thought I was playing a practical joke on them. By day 4, I was nervous about returning inside my house and sitting in the driveway with my hands gripping the driving wheel. Eventually, though, I found myself in front of the door with my key in the lock because there was just so much going through my thoughts at that moment. After a minute or two, Ian managed to enter the house and took his time exploring. He called out to see what was inside, but nobody answered. I looked in every closet, bathroom, and room, but nothing was there. I didn't have any ghost visitation for about a week at a time, and I was beginning to feel glad that perhaps they had simply moved on, and I could now finally be at peace without being afraid of these things in my house. I invited my friend Bobby over to watch a UFC battle on the weekend. We got a few beers, ordered a pizza, smoked a little, and spent the entire evening screaming at the TV. I was relieved to have some normalcy return to my life, and it was an absolute blast. I got up at some time and realized I needed to take out the garbage, so I did just that. I took several large garbage bags and left through the back door. After spending some time gazing at the sky from the back porch, I heard Bobby chatting to someone, perhaps on the phone. Uncertain. Upon returning inside, I went into the living room where I found Bobby giggling and chatting to himself on the couch. He gave me a lovely look and said, "Hey dude, just talking to your roommate here, nice guy. Why didn't you propose living with me?" I surveyed the living room. "Who?" And he says, "This guy," pointing behind him. I simply smirked at him and said, "Told you," as he swiftly turned around and looked at me in shock. I'm not planning on leaving anytime soon because I paid a considerable amount of money for this house, and if I have to have these, whatever they are, then so be it. I thought my haunted days were gone, but evidently not. Occasionally I would hear someone talking in another room, but I would just choose to ignore it. Listening in on these ghosts' conversations occasionally reveals that some of them genuinely sound strange and occasionally merely seem like random words. The stepping about the house still spooks me and wakes me up, but I can make it stop with a small, severe voice. Although it can be challenging at times, I'm getting better at handling it. My friends even tell me that it's common these days. My unseen housemates are residing with me in my retirement home. I just kind of wish they would pay the rent. There you have it. A home that, while ideal for retirement, is definitely not peaceful. The invisible inhabitants of our protagonist's area have agreed to an uncomfortable ceasefire, but will they ever really go? Or has he discovered an everlasting eerie cohabitation? Watch this space for more terrifying stories, and never forget that sometimes the things you most need to dread are the ones you can't see. I appreciate you watching, and until we speak again, slumber soundly. And that brings us to the end of today's delightful story. I really hope it had you on the edge of your seat. If you liked this story, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that like button. It means a lot to me. And if you're new around here, feel free to subscribe. There's always an exciting surprise waiting just around the corner, and you won't want to miss it. Do you have a spooky story to share or a fun idea for our next tale? Feel free to share in the comments below. I'm really curious to know what gives you the creeps the most. And as always, take care, keep exploring. And remember, sometimes the most chilling tales are the ones left untold. Catch you in the next one, if you're up for it.